Jimmy,
Uriah.
thanks for being here, man.
No, thanks for
Uh,
having me. One of my favorite parts of the day is when we can sit down and talk about
oh,
stuff.
dude, it's so good,
Yeah.
and it's freeing in the sense of, most people out there will talk about mortgage, and that's all they're gonna talk about, right?
Dude, after a while, mortgage is boring.
And so, what's
Seriously.
what's beautiful is working with you. We talk about other things. We talk about life. We talk about scams and crap and
Yeah.
and and cycling and all this stuff. And that's kind of what we're gonna get into today.
Yeah, because
Um,
July's a big month.
dude, we're gonna blow some stuff up,
Yeah.
right? Is that what we're gonna do today?
Yeah, that's the plan anyway. That's what we plan on every time.
So, Jimmy, tell the people a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do, and how long you've been doing it.
I'm a mortgage broker, and
Okay.
I've been doing that for about 6 years. I'm with
Okay.
Indigo Mortgage, and we're a small shop,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think with especially with me
Mm-hmm.
is that I get really tight with my clients, right? Because like you and we will talk a lot about other stuff and not just mortgages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that you have to really know your client beyond talking mortgages, right?
Mm-hmm.
What makes them tick? What gets them excited?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what I like to do. I think there's a lot of people that do that also,
Yeah.
but that's just kind of like what I like to do.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And so you've been doing this for a few years now.
Yeah,
This ain't your first rodeo.
yeah, and it's been hard. I
Yeah.
mean, when we first opened shop in Colorado, because the company is owned by my best friend
Okay.
in Albuquerque.
Okay.
So I work for my best friend, which is good and bad. It's like working for your brother, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we had to face COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We had to face the interest rate thing. And I think people will say, well, yeah, well, we had to face all that too. We had just opened our doors
Yeah. Fresh.
fresh,
Mm.
and so now we're rebuilding again.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I'm here and I talk about stuff on the mortgage side is because I think myself and Indigo have a lot to offer
Yeah.
the people of Colorado Springs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a rekindling all across the board. I mean, you just moved into a new house. You sold
Yeah,
your house. Like, it's kind of a new season, if you
dude,
will.
it's a new life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to get into it today. We got July coming up, like you
Yes.
said. Uh, the 4th of July.
Yeah.
This is like American independence, right? This is
Yeah.
a big deal.
It is. And see, I'm a history buff
Yeah,
anyway, so I love history.
yeah,
And so whenever something comes on TV around the 4th of July or Veterans Day or something like that has to do something with our freedom and how we got our freedom, I always watch it, right?
mm,
Because I think you've got to really understand where we came from as a country. We're only like 250 years old as a nation.
mm-hmm,
We are babies
yeah,
in the world, right?
right,
And we're still one of the strongest countries in the world, even with all our issues. But we're still. I saw a show last night, and I think was the saying he said, "I'm still here,
mm,
even with all our issues. We're still here,
mm-hmm,
and we're still a leader."
yeah. So question for you: What is these days, right? Because obviously things have changed over these 250 years
Right.
that we've been a country. What what does 4th of July mean to you?
Well, it's a reflection,
Yeah.
and not just on Independence Day, but on because I know that's what the Fourth is about,
Mm,
but reflection on the last 250 some years,
mm,
right?
yeah.
Because we had to do a lot of stuff. I mean, we've helped a lot of nations, and but it wouldn't have happened without those guys with the wild idea in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we're going to create our own country. And when you read more about our independence, it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
We were fighting one of the greatest nations in the world at that time.
Yeah, what is Great Britain, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Great Britain, and we
Yeah.
were just a bunch of farmers,
Yeah.
right?
Pitchforks, man.
Yeah, And if you read about all our losses early,
Mm,
a lot of countries would have said, "I'm done." But that's that American just tenacity, right?
mm-hmm.
We
The
want
drive.
something, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go for it, knock us down, and get back up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the fourth means to me overall.
Yeah, that's good. So favorite 4th of July memories. And I mean, it can be wild, it can be toned down.
I think I've said this before, and if I have, I apologize. But we lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and the Fourth of July there was like Norman Rockwell, right? You got the fireworks, you got the fireflies, you got the
Mm,
barbecue. But every year, my daughter would cry on the Fourth of July.
mm.
It's just like tears. Don't know what caused it, and we still laugh about that
Yeah.
today. But I think I liked the Fourth of July when my kids were smaller
Hmm.
because it's like Christmas too, right?
Yeah.
They bring a certain joy and a
Yeah.
certain energy
Yeah.
to all these holidays.
Absolutely.
And so it was always fun.
Yeah.
Those are my memories of the 4th of July. Not all the barbecues and all that, but
Yeah.
just the kids.
Dude, I know for me, bro, like my birthday was in May. It's at the end of May, right?
Right.
And so I would get a bunch of cash for my birthday, and the fireworks stands open June 1st, right? And they're selling all month long. And dude, I remember I would spend hundreds of dollars
Oh,
on
yeah.
fireworks, and 4th of July for me was just awesome because we just blow the crap out of it. And not just like these itty bitty things. We're talking 500 grammers.
Yeah.
Like
That's when you could have those, right?
when you got your ringing in your ear and you're like, yeah, that was loud, but that was awesome. Like that's what I'll always
And your
remember.
parents are saying, cut that crap out.
Yeah.
You're going to get hurt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're going to lose a finger.
Well, my grandparents embraced it.
Oh, that's
They
cool.
lived out on an airstrip, private airstrip, and so we would go out on the airstrip, and everybody would be in front of their hangar and just blow stuff up, and there'd be a show for hours.
Well, you got cocky when you get a bottle rocket and you light it and you held it in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the very end you just kind of like flipped it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sparkler bombs, I'm sure
Yeah.
you guys can YouTube this, but literally taking bundles of sparklers and putting
Yes.
in electrical tape and then putting a fuse in the middle and lighting it, and boom, people putting them in deep freezers. That's how you know I'm from Oklahoma. That's how you know I'm from Oklahoma. That's good stuff. Good stuff right there. Okay, so what does real freedom look like to you today? And not the fireworks version. Not
Yeah, just on a personal level.
Yeah.
I think what I look at, we see it every day.
Mm,
We're able to make choices what we do.
mm,
We're able to make choices where we want to work. So it's a lot of choice. And I know there's a lot of countries that have a lot of choice also, don't get me wrong. But the American way has always been that independent, like, I'm going to do my thing,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I look at it every day because I look at my kids also
Mm-hmm.
and the choices they have, right? And I think it's all about choice. I think it's the ability to have the choice to make those decisions.
That's good. That's good. All right, let's pivot a little bit. So
Okay.
in July also,
Yeah.
there's a big race.
Yeah, big bike race. I
Yeah.
forgot what it's called.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, Tour de France.
Yes.
What? Give me a little history lesson because I'm not big into cycling, right? And I'm sure there's people out there that are not as big into cycling as you are. What is the Tour de France? How did it start?
The Tour de France started in the early 1900s as basically a promotion
Mm,
by a newspaper
mm,
in Paris. And to get more subscribers, they said, let's have a race across France.
mm,
Okay, so let's go back to the early 1900s. You had dirt roads.
mm-hmm.
You had very heavy bikes. In fact, water bottles were attached to the front of the handlebars, right? They used to carry tubes
Mm-hmm.
on as they rode because there's really not a support like it is now. They smoked cigarettes because they thought that gave them energy. They drank wine on breaks. And here's the best part is that there was like people out there on the sides of the road that if their guy wasn't winning, they would throw tacks in the middle of the road. So
Oh my
that guy
gosh.
leading would flat.
Oh my gosh.
You
So
know?
it was dirty.
Oh yeah.
It was rigged almost.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The only time they didn't run the Tour de France was the Great War. the Great
Okay.
War and World War II.
Yeah.
But there's so much issue. I got a picture in my office of them and Brittany like in 1930 something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like so. It's like unimaginable that these guys did this
Mm-hmm.
compared to today.
Mm-hmm.
But the history is cool.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
got gears and stuff now, and they
yeah,
they they ran it flat.
skinny little tires,
Yeah.
and and dirt roads and big climbs, and so it's fun. The Tour de France is probably one of the most famous bike races in the world,
Yeah.
because of its upbringing, and plus it caught the press in France,
Mm-hmm.
because they're the ones that got it going. And so it's always been in there,
Yeah.
Like the Giro's a little bit quieter, as we talked about.
Yeah.
And then when the Vuelta comes up later on this year, it's a little smaller race, but the Tour is kind of like the kingpin of
Mm-hmm.
of the Grand Tours.
Yeah. So what's you mentioned it's one of the more popular races, but what's something that people may not understand fully about the race if they're just casually watching it, come across just flipping channels or whatever?
See, I think it's hard. It's like if you're a golfer, you don't mind watching 6 hours of golf, right?
Uh,
If you're a cyclist, you don't mind watching that much of cycling race. But the average person, they see a bunch of guys with tight black lycra shorts on with helmets, going down this road,
yeah.
all packed together,
Yeah.
and it's like everybody's having a fun time.
Yeah.
I don't think what they realize is how fast these guys are going.
Yeah.
You
How
know,
fast are they going?
downhill, they can go as fast as 80 kilometers per hour, 48 to 50 miles an hour, downhill, tight turns.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Better hope you got some grip on your tires.
Yeah. And sprinting's the same way. We talked about watts before.
Yeah.
To do a sprint, it's crazy because there's so much energy, there's so much
Mm.
power that you don't see
Mm-hmm.
unless what they're doing now is they're showing power meters
Mm.
on the TV screen.
That's cool.
So, what I would suggest if you've never watched before, what NBC Sports does, which is really cool, is like they'll show the race live in the morning, and it's like 3 or 4 in the morning. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm the only crazy guy that gets up to watch it. But then at night, they have like a recap show.
Uh-huh.
And I think those are good to watch because they're only like an hour long,
Mm-hmm.
and you get an idea of what cycling's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you said that's on NBC Sports. So.
Yeah, I think Peacock's going to carry it.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome. What's one tour moment that has stuck with you?
Okay.
All the years you've been watching it, you've been enthralled in it. What's the one moment that you're like, yeah, I remember that.
So I was living in Salem, Oregon,
Okay.
and I started riding a bike because of the Boys and Girls Club.
Mm.
Both my buddies were like directors of the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
And they said, Jimmy, we want to take somebody on a bike, but we need another person.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'll go on a bike.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I started cycling.
Okay.
But anyway, so I'm on my first event in Oregon, and I'm
Mhm.
going up this hill, man, and it was like, I don't know, it seemed like forever. And I was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy comes by in a car, and he said, Greg LeMond has come back to win the Tour de France in the final time trial by like 7 seconds. And he was behind. And he was the first one to bring in all this aerodynamic stuff.
Okay.
And it was like an unbelievable comeback. And I just remember being on that bike going, that is so freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The guy comes back we weren't supposed to win it, came back, and he had been shot a couple of years before. So it was just this great story about coming back, doing the impossible, and winning. So it was an awesome moment.
That's so good. So Tour de France, gotta watch it.
Yes.
When is it? When is it this year?
I think it starts July. I was going to check that on. It's like usually the first weekend in July.
Okay, sweet. Why don't you give us a little breakdown of kind of, I know we're kind of here in the middle here, but give us a little breakdown of what the market's up to right now.
Well, we've seen the rates are ticking down a little bit.
Okay.
And when I read yesterday what the rates were, is one because things are starting to straighten out in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still where we don't want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's just, like we talked about so many times, there's so many variables right now.
Mm-hmm.
between our economy and the tariffs and what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East, because we are a global economy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when something happens somewhere else in the world, it's going to affect us some way.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be isolating from all this stuff. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the low inventory, it's just a lot of things right now. I mean, we got to get out of this valley
Yeah.
and start climbing up. But I think it's going to get better. I think it's going to take longer than we think.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said before, if you're looking and you like the house and you can afford the house, buy the house,
Yeah.
even where the rates are today, because we can always refi to a lower rate.
Yeah. That's good. Um, what's a one-liner of mortgage advice that you can give just this week to people?
Get a copy of your credit report and read it.
Okay. Well, that's a great lead in to our next segment, right?
See?
You're just instant. We don't, no prep here. He's just on fire. So a lot of people struggle, especially right now, because I think a lot of people have, taken out loans and taken out, different financing options and stuff to pay bills,
Right,
to, get things done, and it's kind of tacked their credit a little
right.
bit. And I think with people with a lower credit score, I think they don't even think about buying a home. Can you buy a home with low credit?
Yeah. So let's take a look at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, for instance, because like the VA loans have a different low credit
Mm,
score, and so if we look at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they're usually the lowest is 620,
mm,
and and that scares people because it's going to be a higher rate because your credit score is lower, right?
mm,
But I think you have to look at the big picture of all this also too, because the credit score is just a part of it, right?
mm,
We have to look at your debt.
mm,
We have to look at how much money you have in the bank. We have to do all this other stuff
mm,
because, like I said, that's just a part of it. Is that
mm,
is that where we start? Not necessarily, because I like to look at debt first.
mm,
Because if I'll look at the credit report. We'll go over the credit report, see what the score is, see what we can do. But I think people understand there's more to it than just the credit score
mm.
because you can get a home loan
Yeah,
with a 620.
yeah.
Now the rate's going to be higher, but here's the kicker:
Mm,
is that as we said before, after the sixth payment, they can refinance. But here's the cool thing about owning a home is that every time you make that payment and you keep current on all your other payments, your credit score is going to go up. Having a home, paying for a home, is probably one of the biggest things to get your credit score up.
mm,
Now they're starting to give stuff like for rent, give you credit for rent. Okay,
mm,
that's great. Make your credit score. But I'm just saying though, in the big picture, if you can afford a home, and maybe it's just a starter home, and I think that it's like when you first invest,
yeah,
right? You don't start off with $1 million.
right.
You start off with maybe $500.
Yeah.
Same as in a home. You buy what you can afford and build off that.
Mm,
That is always my plan with first-time home buyers. Is that okay? It may not be your dream home, because
yeah.
maybe we're not there yet. But we can get you in this home, get you started,
Started.
get the credit scores up, get some equity in there. That's our plan.
Yeah.
My plan is not to max you out on a house payment. We've talked about this
Right.
many times. My plan is to get you something comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 or 3 years later, hopefully job increases, pay increases,
Mm-hmm.
all that building stuff. And then you say, you know what, Jimmy, let's take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we want to move to a bigger home. Great.
Yeah.
Let's take a look. But I'm not gonna strangle you, and I'm not gonna tell you no because you have a 620 credit score.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say whether we can do it or not.
Yeah.
But I encourage people to look.
What would you say to somebody? So, I mean, there's people out there that are paralyzed with fear about even asking a question around credit and
Don't
buying a
you know
home.
what?
Like,
Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Don't be any of that stuff because we all go through certain things in life that changes our credit, right?
mm,
It could be medical. It could be you're helping another family member. But you know what? If you never ask the question, you'll never find out how we can fix that.
mm,
And that's the most important thing. right. You may not be able to buy it now,
Yeah.
but we get on a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be where you go to a credit score repair person.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that many a times.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed.
Mm. That's
Right?
good. That's good. Why is low credit often more of a fear thing than a financial thing? So fear and financial. Why
Well, I
why is
think
that such
because the credit score is like a reflection of you, people think, right?
personal?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what your backstory is,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think financially, it's like, yeah, I make, $70,000 a year, and oh, that's great. We don't know the backdrop of that either,
Mm-hmm.
how much debt there is.
Mm-hmm.
But the credit score is really personal because that is the direct reflection on you. A lot of people think, not taking into account what's happened.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody to kind of separate that in their brain? Like it's not as personal as you think. Like you kind of mentioned it before. We kind of all go through things.
Right.
Um, but just how do you decipher and separate?
I think what it is that if the fear is controlling you, then we'll never find out what we can do.
Mm,
Right? It's natural. I'm afraid of doing this, so I don't even want to attempt that.
mm,
But if you say, you know what, my credit score may be low, but that's not a direct reflection of me because of this.
mm-hmm,
Jimmy, how can we do this?
mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to judge you for your credit score,
Right.
because there's a lot of hardworking people that have low credit scores,
Mm,
but that doesn't mean that they should not get into a house.
that's good.
And if the credit score is below 620, then let's fix it. Let's fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to wait 6 months, but
Yeah.
let's fix the problem.
Shifting into that growth mindset, that problem solving mindset, and not just, oh crap, my credit sucks. I'm never gonna be able to buy a house.
Yeah,
It's shifting.
yeah, it is. It when you know what you got,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you know what the problem is, and now we have a step to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to do. It's not all about, oh, I got to do a mortgage today.
Right.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about that person in front of me and saying how I can help them now and later.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good, man. All right, shifting into the next segment, we're gonna talk a little bit about being cautious. Um,
Oh, yeah.
cautious on social. Now, Jimmy, I've been working with you for it's been almost 2 years now,
Right.
and you've experienced quite a bit of crap when it comes to social media. There's been a couple, little scandal deals that go on through Messenger and threats
Yeah.
and stuff like that. You know, what's something that you've seen, in your own experience that has just made you shake your head? Like, I can't believe this is even happening.
I think because I've done a lot of research because, as you mentioned, Uriah, there's been some stuff with me also where people have tried to scam me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're the first guy I reach out to,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And it's scary
Mm-hmm.
because they threaten to blackmail you, they threaten to do all this stuff to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Threaten to ruin you,
Mm-hmm.
and you panic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not anything that you did, it's just the fact that you just happen to be on their radar that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing I would really recommend is be careful what you post and who you let into your inner circle on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you give a person access,
Mm-hmm.
right, then they can do whatever they want. They can
Yeah.
they can send messages to everybody, the group, and so you got to be very careful. And that goes back to searching that profile
Mm-hmm.
because Facebook doesn't give a shit
Mm-hmm.
if these people are coming after other people for money.
Right.
All Facebook cares about is how many viewers or how many profiles do we have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was watching this show. I think we talked about this. I'm not sure, but this one guy had over 100 profiles that were all scammers, and so he notified Facebook and
Mm-hmm.
said, "These are all fake. I got people here saying that I'm scamming them for money, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook only took down like 11% of those profiles. So that tells you everything, right? So
Yeah.
Facebook is not going to protect you. No, none of these social media is going to protect you. As
Mm-hmm.
much as they talk the talk, they ain't going to do it. So we have to protect ourselves. The one thing I've looked at is when you look at a profile, let's say it's a woman,
Mm-hmm.
all men followers,
Mm-hmm.
no back history,
Mm-hmm.
none of that stuff. And we, as men, if a beautiful woman talks to us, we're thinking, hey, yeah, great, awesome. But I think what we do is we have to really dissect who's communicating with us.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, oh, I'm following you, so I'll just follow you right back, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
automatic click. And that's what they're hoping. They get that
Well,
automatic follow back.
and now it's getting even worse with AI. You know, like it's gonna totally like you're really not gonna know who's actually behind the keyboard or the phone or whatever it is because AI has gotten so sophisticated and so good that it's going to be hard for us as human beings to discern, okay, is this a real person or is this somebody that's leading me on a wild goose chase? It's already happening. I know corporations that are hiring, VAs and stuff like that
Right.
just to take up the time of their competitors.
Yep.
It's not even like they're not even going to buy. It's just like a literally a wild goose chase. And so being able to be on guard and being sharp, what kind of questions are you asking these people to pre-qualify them? What?
Well, here's another thing too that I watched this a friend of my ex-wife actually went to a seminar about this, and they can take 5 seconds of your voice and they can make a whole conversation, right?
Yep.
And so they can take an image of you, right? A picture, and create an AI person.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a picture that's on the internet. We do stuff like we're doing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about stuff, and somebody can get both of those and they can merge them and make this make believe person.
Yeah.
I think people need to watch out for is, and we're going to be less cute on it because we stream so much, where sometimes the mouth moves and the words aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's you got to look at.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at if it stutters,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got to look at this stuff with a microscopic lens,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because once they get in, they can do so much damage. And like I said before, nobody's policing it on the front side.
Right. Yeah. I think there will be majorly. There will have to be. And Meta's kind of on the front end on that, with the meta verification and stuff like that. So the blue check mark and all of that. There's actually security behind that. Um,
But it's not up front.
no,
It's
but
not
there.
when I make that
Yeah.
profile up front. And that's the
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
It's not up front because once it gets through those doors,
Mm-hmm.
how many people are going to say, oh, yeah, I want to verify that? A lot
Yeah.
of people don't,
Yeah.
because we're not, this has happened so much
Mm-hmm.
and it's growing so fast. They say that scamming is one of the lowest reported crime, and it's a freaking crime.
Mm-hmm.
That's so underreported because people are so shameful of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? And people will look at people who get scammed and say,
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you fell for that.
Yeah.
I would never fall for that.
Right.
Well, if doctors and Wall Street people
Mm-hmm.
and all these smart people fall for it, don't be so like it ain't gonna happen to you,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be the shame because it's a crime,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We feel for victims.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit, because I mean, I know we had some conversations that you're just like, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe this happened and stuff like that. What was it like sitting in being the victim, right? And sitting in it and then like shaking yourself out of it and getting out of the shame cycle and the I'm just the bad self-talk,
It's hard. It's because I expect more from myself,
mm,
you know, and you are embarrassed. You're embarrassed because people would not think that would happen,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Hell, how do you tell your parents,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I'm sure people are viewing this right now thinking, "Oh God, Jimmy, I can't. Do I really want to do business with you?"
Right,
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 right.
right, right.
Um,
Yeah, but some of the I would say, I've worked with people that have gotten their accounts hacked. They've, given up passwords when they shouldn't have given up passwords because they thought it was meta.
yeah,
They've helped somebody out thinking that they're helping them out
right.
when really it's it's a scammer, and now they got their information, and now they're out $50,000.
Yeah, now they're out running wild.
Right. Promises of, hey, give me $500 and I'll turn it into 2,500 for you, here in the next couple weeks. And next thing you know, their account's completely drained,
Well,
you know?
look on the internet, on social media, how many investment
Mm-hmm.
opportunities are out there,
Yeah.
right? And so when I look at it, I knew that one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to help other people.
Mm,
After all this happened, I wanted to help. And yeah, do I put myself in a bad spot in a way? Yeah, I do. Because, well, I would never do that. How
mm-hmm.
could you do that? How can I trust you?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, blah, blah. So it's a huge thing, but there's a lot of people out there that are in a lot of pain that are afraid to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid to talk to family. They're afraid to talk to friends. They're afraid, and it will just eat you alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the next kind of final question, I guess, is through your personal journey and going through all that you've been through, and I'm sure others, and I've experienced secondhand from other people. What are filters that you personally are putting in place now? I know you just talked about AI and watching the voice and stuff like that, but what are some other filters that you personally are putting in place so that it doesn't happen?
See, I think one thing that we have not talked about, and I'll get back to that, is that a lot of this stuff happens when the person that is the victim is not in a great place mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're depressed, maybe they're lonely, maybe, and these people pick up on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another reason why people don't talk about it, because now you have to talk about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is that my kids, when it comes to mental health, they're like, whatever you talk,
Mm-hmm.
it's cool. There's no shame in mental health.
Yeah.
My generation, there was shame in mental health,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you were on drugs, there's shame in mental health. So we're looking at two different generations. The ones that are mainly being scammed are like 30 on up. The ones below 30, they a little bit more smarter about everything. Um, what I do differently now is that I don't accept friends automatically. I'm very, very picky who I let in my inner circle,
Mm-hmm.
you
That's
know,
good.
because I've had people come up and they'll ask me mortgage questions and I want to follow you. And I say, well, profile doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
we're good. So this is a very hard time
It
because
is.
because on a personal level, I feel good that I'm trying to help people,
Yeah.
but on a professional level,
Big dang.
like how do people view you on a
Yeah.
professional level, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I've done though too is that I think I'm a more of a well-rounded
Mm-hmm.
broker than I was before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've experienced it, and not
Yeah,
everybody can say they have.
right.
And it's not what people think. Some people think, oh, you fell for that, da 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 da. And it's like, well, when they're bringing up your personal information and they're bringing up, it kind of puts you up against the wall. and corners you, and you really do have to think about, okay, what's going on here? What's actually, and I know that's conversations that I've had with many folks that have gone through, because my family, some of my family members have gone through scams and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and it's this conversation of, okay, well, this has happened now. Well, we can't change that.
Right.
What now? How are we going to live moving forward? What can we do? This is now uncontrollable. So let it just fall, and focus on what we can do. And that talk of moving forward and putting filters in positions, and not accepting every friend request, and not responding to just every Tom, Dick, and Harry that messages you,
Right.
and acting as meta or anything else, but actually move with purpose. I think that's what, for me, and what I challenge other people to do, is what's going to happen when I do this. It's chess, not checkers.
Right.
Right?
It
It's
is
not
because
reactionary, because that's how they get you.
right.
Is the reaction, the where I'm gonna say something wild and controversial, and it's gonna get a rise out of you. And then now I can play even harder.
Right.
Now I know what your button is, and so I'm just gonna keep pressing it. That's the way these people are thinking, and it's so terrible.
You
Like,
know, they are so smart.
yeah.
And you usually think you're dealing with one scammer.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with a room full of
A
scammers.
network.
Yeah. So there's always somebody there, and they're good enough that you never know that it's a different person because the conversation style never changes.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
So, um, and that's the thing. And I've also read too that if you've been scammed once, they sell your information to other scammers.
mm-hmm,
So somebody else comes at you.
mm-hmm,
So that's where you have to be on guard. But you know what? Because we talked about that when I called you that one time,
mm-hmm,
is that they attack you the same way.
mm-hmm.
It's just a different scammer,
Yeah.
and that's because that's the only way they know how to get to you.
Mm-hmm,
But one thing I learned through all this experience, how much my family and my friends love me,
mm-hmm,
how much my kids love me.
mm-hmm,
That's the part that I think when you're in the midst of it,
mm-hmm,
you're so shameful and embarrassed. You don't realize how much support you have
mm-hmm.
because you feel like you're in a dark room by yourself.
Yeah.
And when you talk to it and you talk more about it, and the more I read about, because I read about it all this. I even watch shows now that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
let me have some more pain. I'm going to watch this show about scamming.
Well, it's a community now too.
Yeah,
Like,
but you
there's so
just
many people that have gone through getting scammed, and it's been detrimental to their lives and their
yes,
livelihood, and they've had to change their lives and now live in such a way, they may have been living on the high horse before, and now they're freaking on the floor, and so having to learn how to live like that, and knowing that it's happening to other people too. Like, I think that helps people get out of the situation, and it's with anything, right? Like
right.
like I know, a lot of people that listen to my podcast know that I struggled with suicidal thoughts there for a little while. It was my darkest night, if
Yeah.
we will, and there's a lot of people out there that have struggled with that. There's a lot of people that have gone through that, and that dark depression, and this is very real too. Scamming will take you there mentally. It
Well,
will make you think that you're incompetent human being, and you're worthless, and that's just not the case. Like, you're of value, and you have worth. And so what would you say to somebody that's experiencing it right now?
I would say if you haven't talked to somebody, please do.
Mm,
You know, family, friends, somebody that you're tight with
mm,
that will not judge you, that knows you.
mm,
But that's the only way you're going to get better
mm,
is to talk to somebody because if you stay in that dark place, you will take your life. You could. I'm not saying you will. You could take your life
mm,
because there are documented stories of people that have been scammed and have lost everything. I'm talking millions of dollars
mm,
that took their life.
mm.
You know what? That's the biggest win for the scammer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I also look on it like I, my faith always tells me there's a reason for everything,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still asking and got an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think there's a reason for everything, and maybe it's the way we look at things and money,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we put those on such a pedestal
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to chase it
Mm-hmm.
regardless?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it was with me. It was just that I wanted to make more money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm thinking, if that's the thing that's driving my life, then that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm like any other person. I want to make as much as I can,
Mm-hmm.
but the mindset has to be right. It
Yeah.
can't be an all or nothing,
Right.
and
Right.
so there's a lot of things that I still work through.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a lot of things people work through every day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you don't have to be scammed. You could look at your relationship with food, your
Mm-hmm.
relationship with money, with your partner. Everybody's working through something.
Well, in the world today, I mean, just look at what's going on out there,
It's crazy.
or don't
Yeah.
look. But at the same time, like there's so much going on, and I think for so long, and one of the things that social media has done is it's isolated us. You know, we're in our own world now, and we can, you know, just scroll and catch up with people and see what they're doing and stuff, and kind of drift away from the actual relationship. And
That's a
so
great point,
it's
Uriah.
and so when things do happen and catastrophe happens and crap happens, you know, you're kind of just still on your phone and you're like, "Oh, look at their life. I'm not going to say anything about what I'm doing." A comparison seeps in, right?
So let's go back. Let's take
Yeah.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because in your darkest moment,
Mhm.
when you're there and you
Mhm.
feel like such a freaking idiot for being scammed,
Mhm.
you look at everybody else and look how
Mhm.
great they're doing. They don't make mistakes. Their life is wonderful. Look, they're traveling somewhere. Oh, great. And you're thinking, I'm such a dumbass.
Mhm.
Excuse my French.
No.
Um, but that's a great point. I think that what's so, and when we go back to COVID,
Mhm.
COVID is really scamming really took off, right?
Mhm.
Because people were stuck at home.
Mhm.
People couldn't see each other. People could not communicate.
Right.
People can hang out.
Right.
Because when you're with somebody like you and I talking, we're having dinner or having a beer or something, I don't have time to worry about what's going on the
Right.
phone.
Right.
If I have to go to work every day, I don't have time for the phone. I get home, I make dinner, I do whatever I want. That goes away.
Yeah.
But with COVID and we shut down, right?
Mhm.
That's when a lot of this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Jimmy, dude, thanks for getting vulnerable. Thanks for getting real. This was a deep one here at the end.
We'll find out what the remarks are.
Yeah. Um, well, tell me this, how can people get a hold of you if they do have a question about mortgage or anything else we've talked about today,
Yeah,
right?
what I would love is just give us some feedback, right?
Yeah.
Because it's important that we share and we share with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And this is more than mortgages, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we talk about life a lot,
Yeah.
which I think is important. It may be boring for some people,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to go on here for 30 minutes and talk about mortgages. I'd fall asleep myself. So I'm at Jimmy Lynn's,
Okay.
and my number is 719-437-5151.
Awesome.
And also have the Mortgage Hub.
Yeah.
Shoot me a question on the Mortgage Hub. It's on Facebook. It's a group. Or yeah, just let's talk.
Yeah, yeah. Drop a comment
Yeah.
on this video or short form content that you're seeing. If you've got, you know, a story or you can relate in any way, let's connect, let's talk. Community and connection is what social media is all about. And so, yeah, give this guy a subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
If you're enjoying the content, and drop comments. You know, if there's something that you want Jimmy and I to kind of hash out, drop a comment.
Or if you don't
We'll
like
be
something
happy.
we said,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Let's take the
Cuss
good and
us
the
out.
bad.
Cuss us out. Go ahead. Bring it on. Awesome. Well, Jimmy, thank you so
Thanks,
much, man.
brother.
It's been good.
All righty. We'll
All
talk
right.
to you soon.